Welcome. I've been really interested in augmented sixth chords recently, and I know that sounds a ridiculous thing to be interested in because most people are interested in, Line of Duty and what happens next week and stuff like that. But it all stems from the cue I was doing with the droid fight in Phantom Menace. So I'm going to show that to you because this is going to be, I hope it's all right, part of my YouTube thing. So I'm with my MMus students at UWL. If anybody doesn't want to be on YouTube, then just let me know, and then we'll just edit you quietly out.
That's okay.
Everything's all right. And do feel free if you want to put your mic on. You're very welcome, as long as there's no sort of weird lawn mowers in the background. It's fine. So yeah, it stems from this. It's 2 bars of music. That's it. So I'll play it for you. So yeah, the Jedi go and fight some droids, and the droids are useless. They melt like butter as the lightsaber goes straight into them. But this progression is extraordinary. I mean, that took ages to analyze. I mean, a little bit too long to analyze. But what I noticed were there are a few chords. So I'll sort of go into the reduction, which is, as you can see, stupidly complicated. So I'm going so slowly at it. Actually, there's a benefit from going slowly. It's just it means that I can really understand what's going on, or try to understand what's going on. So the first chord was this one. And the reason I was alerted to it is because it just sounds very sort of... It sounds very sort of dominant functional. In other words, if that D flat wasn't there and it was a D natural, it would just be a G7 chord. But remarkably, it's actually an Italian sixth. So it's in, I guess you would call it inverted. So let me just do that. Cannot find or create Lucinda Grand font. Well, okay, fine. Thanks for that. That's an interesting notification. So I'm trying to work out what that actually means. So here, I've sort of done a little thing here. So we got the G, we've got the F, which is actually an E sharp. So if you end the harmonically, make it an E sharp, you get an augmented 6 between the G and the E sharp. So although it's got the same interval set as an Italian 6, there's actually a missing B from it. Like that. And an Italian 6 behaves either like an augmented chord which moves outwards, or like a dominant 7th chord and moves inwards, which is another strange concept. So I'm going to do another thing here. Tell me if I'm preaching to the converted, by the way, but I just find this sort of interesting. So I'm going to do this in... Yeah, I'll do this in sort of C major. So if I do that, let's get that line out of the way because it's annoying. If I actually analyse the notes, so we'll just go A, B, C, D, E, F. That's a 6. And of course, an F natural would be a major 6, so an F sharp is an augmented 6. So we have an augmented 6 interval, and then we also have a third above the bass note as well. So I suppose figured bass-wise, let's see whether we can do a bit of that going on. Where is it? There we go. Got all sort of... Look at all of that mess. I don't think I'm going to be learning any of those shortcuts soon, and that didn't work. Okay, let's try again. Oh, okay, so I think it was Shift H. 3. Yes, there we go. That's strange, isn't it? You sort of can't see it before you actually have to edit it. But figure bass-wise, it's a sharp 6 with a 3, and that's known as an Italian sixth. And its usual resolution would be for the top note to go there and for the bottom note to go one step down. So you've got it almost, it's a divergent progression. The other thing is that, of course, you can enharmonically spell that like this. Like a sort of incomplete dominant seventh. Which would then, of course, resolve there. So it makes it a very ambiguous chord, because you can make it resolve in two completely different ways, and actually two completely different keys, actually. Here, it behaves like a dominant, whereas here, it behaves like a predominant, because that's going to chord 5. So here, make sure we have a little 7 on there. That's actually going to D flat. Does that make sense? So it can go to two completely different areas, which are also you know, a tritone apart with each other as well. I'll come on to that thing a bit later. If you can you can flavour this Italian 6 with other notes. So if I add a 4th above the bass, it has a slightly different flavour. And also we then have a common tone, common tone in the second voice as well. Let's see whether it works with a D flat modulation. So that's really weird. If you play it slower, it kind of works. But we've got this really strong force relation between a D natural and a D flat. It might work better if it's in the second inversion as a sort of modulating thing. Of course, second inversion isn't really a, you know, that it's got to be a support chord for something else. Yeah, so you would perhaps complete the progression like that. Possibly. So that's the French 6th, because, of course, it's just got that added 4th. I always remember it from French 4th, sort of alliterative, so it's quite nice. And then the last one is the German 6th. Don't ask me why they're called this, by the way, because I actually don't know. Is that, which is another flavouring of Italian 6. But of course, if you put it with the D flat here, it becomes a real dominant 7th with that added, you know, with the 5th actually there. Really strange. So the reason why the French 6 is important is because of that Tristan and Isolde thing. So I went on to Wikipedia, thinking about this augmented chord. I think they do mention it somewhere. Where are we? Yes. So here, the French 6 is the one in red. So let's try and work it out. So we've got F, B, D sharp and A. F, B, D sharp and A. So we've got that. So let's see whether we can actually try and... Yeah. So I've now got sharp 6 4, and 3. I've just put it back into the sort of like an inversion I can recognize easily. So the D sharp wants to go to an E, and the F natural also wants to go to an E. So we could go there. What Wagner does, he actually goes to an E7 chord. Like that. Which is obviously a sort of unresolved movement. Because, of course, you don't want to resolve the opera before it's begun. Otherwise, it would just end. And it would go back to A. Really oddly, I think the whole piece finishes in B major, not A, in his opera. So we've got this French 6, which becomes quite important as a sort of, you know, as a chord which flavours that of a dominant function. The actual chord here is a half diminished chord. So Andrea's coming. Here we go. Admit. So yeah, because if I had F, G sharp, B, and D natural, it would be a diminished seventh. So with the D sharp, it's a half diminished seventh. In other words, the top interval is not a minor third, it's a major third. So we got half diminished going to augmented 6. Now going all the way back to the Phantom Menace.
Sorry, Dom, do you mind sending us that Sibelius file later? The one that is really, really useful.
What, the augmented 6 one?
Yeah, it's just handy, I guess, to have.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
So here we've got an Italian 6 followed by a French 6. So we've got that chord here, which is Italian 6, which is really extraordinary. And actually we can see how, you know, I guess it's just a simple, in inverted commas, simple matter of going down a semitone. Like that. But with an added bit of flavouring. With the B flat. Otherwise it would just be 2 Italian 6. So if I actually put this back in, so yeah, so I've done here this bit French 6. Would the usual resolution would be that again? When I say usual resolution, I mean the top note goes up by a semitone and the bottom note goes down by a semitone. So we can clearly see that although enharmonically, or it's written as an F sharp, it's functioning as a G flat. So G flat and E is an augmented 6 because an E flat would be a major 6 and an E double flat would be a minor 6. So we've got.
Sorry, Dominic. First of all, sorry for being late, and second,
Don't
sorry.
worry.
Can I ask what's exactly the topic of today? So
okay,
just to follow. It's my bad.
I'm in the middle of it. It's we're talking about augmented 6 chords, and the reason I'm talking about them was because in the Phantom Menace we have so many of them which lead onto it. So I'll just go back just for the benefit of this. I'll get onto that bit another time. But so I was interested in these first 2 bars because they're all. I was thinking, what on earth's going on? How does he do it? So I've analysed it in my short score. This is all for YouTube, by the way. So I, hope that it's all right to put up here. So I just thought we'd analyse augmented 6 and how they function, because the usual resolutions don't appear in John Williams. And so to keep the sequence going, you've got Italian 6 to French 6, another Italian 6 to French 6, but it just goes up a whole tone. So this little bit here is just repeated upper tones just transposed. It's a sequence. But then we have a half diminished chord followed by a French sixth. Going back to Tristan and Isolde, we have a half diminished chord followed by a French sixth. But it's just used in a completely different way. You know, here, you know, it's sort of romantic and lovely. Bernard Herrmann, you know, Vertigo. The Scène d'amour is filled with that. So here, we've got exactly the same chords, but just used in a completely different way. To raise expectation. So, I mean, that's an extraordinary move from this E-flat half-diminished chord to a French sixth. And then we've got an F chord, which is augmented, so F, A, C sharp, and a seventh on the top of it, which is a favoured chord of Ravel, which is an amazing chord. Then it goes to another French sixth. So all of this voice leading is obviously very ambiguous, but the fact that it's all pretty much augmented intervals means, or even diminished intervals, means that you get this feeling of sort of, you know, it just wants to go somewhere. It has a feeling of lift. And of course, the notes just simply go up to G. You know, he started on G and he's ended on G. Like that. Although he doesn't really, because actually the bass is a G sus with an F in the bass as well. But going back to these chords here, I made a bit of a list, and this is mostly for Andrea's benefit here, of augmented sixths. So I'm just going to just tidy this up a little bit and see whether I can just sort of separate them out slightly. Here we go. So if I do that and just delete some of this, let's do that. Delete that. Respace. Split system as well. So yeah, I'll do a sheet for you, that's fine. So Italian 6 is just sharp 6 and 3. And the usual resolution going outwards. And then you can see the enharmonic equivalent of it resolving inwards. In other words, if I put the C there, so it's a slightly different interval, it actually resolves inwards instead, instead of outwards, and also to completely different key as well. Here we've just got an E flat that's missing from it. So the French 6, let's do that, and then I'll have to do split system again. There we go, that's better. It's just another flavour of Italian 6. It just has an extra note. In this case, it's a D above the C, so it's sharp 6, 4, 3 in terms of figured bass. And figured bass, I'm just counting from the lowest note. Go up 3 notes, and I get to a C. Go up 4 notes, I get to a D. And go up sharp 6 notes, and I get to an F sharp. So its resolution, or enharmonic equivalent, is also a 5/7. So that I can go inwards. So that might be a progression that you might get using a French 6, but spelled slightly differently. All exactly the same notes. And then the German 6 again is just another variation of the Italian 6. Instead of a D or a 4 notes above it, like we have here, we have something which is 5 notes above it. And that just sounds completely like a dominant 7th, unless it resolves this way, where it doesn't sound like a dominant 7th at all. And then, of course, its normal resolution is that, and then the enharmonic equivalent would be that. So that's the French 6th as applied in Wagner. That's 5/7 of A. Is what it sort of wants to do. Let's do that. Cool. Any questions so far?
A lot.
Fire away. If you want to ask them, fire away. No. Okay. You're not sure yet. Okay, let me show you something else. So the reason I was going to Rimsky-Korsakov, and this is something that was sent to me by a friend of mine, is that he talks about how other resolutions of this Italian 6th can work, or augmented 6th. Now, interestingly enough, he's enharmonically changed them so that they're all in the same key of C major, but he's enharmonically changed them so that the F should really be an E sharp, because E sharp is an augmented 6 above G. Okay, and then we have our 3rd. So if I go back to this thing here, let's do one of those. That would be my Italian 6. And actually it's then going to F sharp major. So we're not really in the key of C necessarily. But we are but it's a good place to start if you start a progression. So here he's doing like that, or because you can either go to a major or a minor chord. I think mostly a major chord though. So yeah, so as soon as you get that, it's the same thing enharmonically, but it's still ambiguous. So what's happened is that each one of these G7 chords is actually an Italian 6. It's the same thing. And we can just write Italian 6 above all of them. And you'll notice that they all resolve somewhere slightly different. And I put the French version of the Italian 6 and the German version with the same thing. So you could add, let's say, that. So that would be the resolution from the French 6. The German 6 would be that, which is very, very similar. Very, very difficult to sort of orally distinguish between the two. The next one, going to the major version, then on here, from this bar, going to F sharp completely. Here we go to G flat minor or F sharp minor. Sorry. It's a bit more tenuous, isn't it? And the reason for that is because there's not a semitonal leap, there's a tonal leap here. This is even more tenuous, and this is taken from Rimsky's harmony book, which is the reason why I've been trying to, yeah, go through it. So I think, I can't remember which page it's on now, which is a bit of a shame because, oh, that's interesting. Look at that. Sort of recognise some very strange things going on here. So from here, he's sort of like done a list of possible progressions. So I think this is a bit tenuous here, which is this one. And then that doesn't quite work for me. So he's going to E flat minor. I mean, it does sort of work, but not from C. It just sounds completely wrong. So I think that's tenuous. The next one is going to D major. That's better. The next one is going to F sharp, F sharp major as well, which I think he's already done actually here before, but there we go. So then we also have going to E minor as well, which is a strange one. Again, a very sort of oblique motion, but it still works. Then another one where you have a sort of suspended 9/8 suspension over a G minor chord, which is a bit sort of strange. That might be a sort of Bruckner sort of progression. That sort of thing. But I don't know what this is, so I just put a question mark because I have no idea what that is. So the progression. It sounds like a suspension. A suspended chord actually going to a sort of B minor chord, maybe? No idea. So this one going to C minor. Or another one where you combine a German and a French sixths. Which is really extraordinary. Really interesting. So the next one, which is going to a diminished chord. And it's really interesting. Diminished chords just aren't really used in John Williams. I've found so few of them because it's such a sort of almost sort of 1920s slapstick chord, isn't it? It just doesn't have the right emotional content for anything. So having something which is more advanced, and notice there are no extensions, there are no ninths, there are no 11ths, and no 13ths. There's no mixed modality. It's literally just Italian six, French six, half diminished chord. Those are all the chords that are used. Whereas as soon as you get like a few bars later, we got all of this nonsense going on, where you have sort of E flat over D. Like that. And you can always see it in the construction. That's definitely... So we can sort of do the same, and then you go a step lower. So if you ever want to recreate a sort of John Williams-esque thing, I know I'm sort of slightly getting off track here. I'll put it on. So it's sort of under the heading of polymodality. Okay, we do that. Let's turn it into a second version. Let's also look at the way it's constructed. So we have one note that's below the semitone. Sorry, one note that's below the bottom note. and then a perfect fourth above that. There we go. That's changed everything. Yeah, so you can sort of, if I put them into voice 1 and 2 like that, you can see it a bit more clearly. Now, the reason I said D major is because a G flat is an F sharp enharmonically. So you could put, we could do that. So he's just going down at a minor second. I love this transpose feature. It's so good. It makes me so lazy. Not when I get it wrong, of course. Come on, minor second. Behave. And then we can just repeat it and then just do the same, repeat it and do the same. There we go. I'm John Williams. Instantly. And it doesn't really matter what I put in the bass. I could put anything in the bass beneath that. In fact, let's try it. Let's see whether it works. I love it when this sort of thing happens. So what do I want to do? I want to do that, go into unnamed bass, stave, then I need to hide it all from here to here and go hide. Lovely. Good. So that's my augmented 6. And then subsidiary thing, completely unrelated. Polytonality. So that's just a joke. So polytonality in Phantom. Menace. So this refers to 1M4A Droid Battle. There we go. So here you start off with a major chord. Start with the major chord, add a semitone, then make it into second inversion, step 2. But let's do it on a little line like this. Make it second inversion. Add a semitone below bottom note. Add a fourth, perfect fourth, above the note you've just added. There we go. And that's the exact voicing. It does slightly change, but actually not really, because of course you can just remove the second inversion aspect of it and just make the top one root position. So alternative. Let's go into another few bars. Alternate voicing is to make dee-dum-bum, penultimate voice. So that's voice 1, 2, 3, 4. Up an octave. There we go. So we can clearly see an E flat idea there. Let's colour those if we can. Yeah, that's better. It's quite nice, that sort of colour thing here. We've got a little palette like that. So then we've got E flat minor. Literally over, whoops, D, major. Notice, I mean, interestingly enough, it doesn't, I mean, you could make it work like that. But he tends to use this sort of jazz technique that you don't have a semitone in the upper, in the between voice 1 and 2, because otherwise it's just very, very harsh. So you remove it by dropping the voice, literally. Because otherwise you would have still the same chord, but actually by dropping voice 2, which is actually, it is a drop 2 voicing. There, which is rather nice. And again, even with the original voicing, where you have your E flat minor triad and second inversion, there's quite a nice minor third gap in the voicing there as well. Right, let's go back to this thing and see whether we can make something work compositionally. Yeah, so I'm going to have arbitrarily, I'm just going to go, okay, I'm just going to have a da-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, then I'm going to go up a tone for the whole thing. Obviously, you would put a rhythm to this. There we go, and I might even do that. So exactly the same situation where I've got a root position triad at the top and just, you know, the perfect fourth is below. Let's just listen to the transition. Right, let's make it quicker. Crotchet equals, where are we? 180. That is just not, is it? That's very strange. Let's not make it 180 then. So now you might sort of think, well, what could I do with the bass? Yeah. Let's do a little ostinato. This works okay. Bum ba 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 bum. That works okay as well. Let's do that. Let's try and speed this up. I'm trying to work out why that didn't work. So crotchet equals 180.
I'm sorry, Dominic. Could I ask just it's a very simple question. Maybe it's quite stupid, but all this progression, how can you orchestrate it? I mean, who's playing this particular chord?
In this particular instance, that's all the violins and the horns and violas. So you would probably have. So actually, in the original, let's have a look at the original. So we've got first playing the top note. We've got divided seconds and divided violas. So it's orchestrated with strings, and the horns replicate the harmony, as they almost always do in John Williams. So we can add them together. So just the harmony. This is just strings. And then they unison after that. So they blend really, really well because they're all sitting in the right area for the horn, which is always, anything below C is always sort of excellent, really, or C sharp in this instance. We've then got a bass line, which is just duplicated with bass clarinet, bassoons, contrabassoon. It's exactly the same as the cello and the double bass. So classic doubling. So that's an interesting thing. We notice that actually he's keeping the same key, which is sort of D-ish. I mean, I'm calling it D just because it starts on a D. That's the only reason I'm calling it that. So we could probably apply the same principle here. So that's interesting. So actually, with the bottom voice, he's replicating. So let's try something different. And then just double it. Nice. And we can even have it going low. Like that, obviously too low. It would work once it's orchestrated, no question. Let's try and put it up an octave and let's see whether that works. Yeah, I mean, I've got the same sort of cacophony of excitement going on there. So a couple of things that we had a look at, really, which is this use of augmented chords here, which is orchestrated in, that's interesting, in horns and trombones and tuba. It's all very low, all of this stuff, which is remarkable. So, I mean, it's still quite low, isn't it? Let's go here. But there's enough space between the next nearest note. There's nothing ever less than, in this case, an augmented fourth. In fact, that's even wider. That's now become a diminished, well, it's the same thing, diminished fifth. Now it's a seventh. Now it's a sixth. You never have notes which are just too low in the bass, or else the harmony just simply won't work. That's all doubled on the horns. So we've got horn 5 and 6 is the same as trombone 3. We don't have another bass in the horn because they're just too low. So here, D. And so of course, we don't have horns 7 and 8 fitting in too low because they're just too low. Really, he's actually the lowest is an A, which is sort of, that's low for a horn. But of course, it's covered with the trombone, so it's power, but without any, you won't get a lack of power with it. Of course, there's all other stuff going on, with Williams. I mean, you've got all of these sort of like little interjections of woodwind, which sort of like bird calls almost. I'm in the process of analysing all of this stuff because I can't make head or tail of it at the moment. It sounds really atonal. It's not quite atonal, but there is a lot going on. So I'm sort of...
Sounds almost like an octatonic scale, maybe.
It sounds a bit like it, but I don't think it is, because there are too many notes. So because that isn't. In fact, that is... It's completely chromatic. Sorry. Yeah, so it's sort of, it's just weird. Ba 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 bum ba da da da. It's almost as if he's got like little cells of 3 notes, which are then changed slightly. Yeah, it's really weird. Let's just go from here. Just the strings. Yeah, it's almost as if each of those 3 notes is saying one is a different chord. Da da dum. It has a sort of feeling of diminished. Ba da dum is just C minor. And then we've got a sort of implication of another augmented chord there. Just though, I mean, what's that? I want to know that, because that's cool. I love those 3 chords. They're amazing. Oh, it's just amazing. And then he's going sort of suddenly into C major. Let's see whether we can work them out. A sort of insight into what I'm trying to do. So I always look at the trombones when I'm trying to do harmony, because that's usually where it is. So let's just listen to it. Yeah, so we got some really strange chords. So we got G sharp. Let's try and do this on a piano thing. A. Oh, yeah, it's just his usual chord, augmented chord, with a major 7th. Here you've got A minor with a major 7th. So if I go back onto...
Sorry, in that case, the major 7 is at the bass.
Yes, so it's in 3rd inversion. Yeah, so we've got this chord with the bass down below. Yeah. Whoops. This is a cool feature. You can press Command K, type in the chord, and it will give you the chord and actually spell it for you. So it's an A minor with a major 7th. You might have a little triangle symbol. For some reason, it does it sometimes and doesn't do it in other times. But in this case, of course, we've got that. Now, what's the other bit of the voicing? Because that's really harsh. So there are 2 octaves away from each other. Or actually more than an octave. So boom, 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 boom. Let's go back here. Boom. Yeah, so we've got... I think we've got that. Let's just... Yeah, we've got the E, then the A, then the C. So notice, again, the upper 4 voices are in 2nd inversion. We saw that, actually, in the very first bit with these polytones. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe having 2nd inversion extensions, or, sorry, 2nd inversion voicings is kind of the way to go when it's low. So that's that chord. Is there anything that I'm missing from it? We've got a sort of B, which is getting in the way. Okay, so let's go back and see whether there's anything to do with a B. It's just flavour, isn't it? Yeah, it's just a 9th. So you can go A minor 9th with a major 7th. Doesn't even recognise that that chord exists. Could also go 2. So yeah, so actually having the 9th in as an optional extra. So I'll change that actually. Let's do that. So you can add 9. Bum bum ba bum bum. I'm going to ignore the D flat because it's just so short. Again, it's just a chromaticism, which he does quite a lot actually. I recognise, you know, that sort of idea from Harry Potter. So yeah, so you can add a 9th, which would be a B. That one. And I think the reason for not doing it is because, again, it would make a semitone below the first voice. He doesn't do that. So avoid semitones between... I can't spell. Voices 1 and 2. And I can't spell avoid either. I'm going to have to go in a minute as well. So what I'll do is I'll save this. I'll upload it to our usual place. And then you can all download and have a peruse. And I'll also upload the Phantom score for you as well, so you can sort of just peruse your way through it and study it, because it's really interesting.
Sorry, where we can download it is my bad. Maybe
usual place. I can't say because we're recording, but I will make it in the usual place. I'll send you a link, don't worry. So here we've got, what have we got? So in a sense we've got F. So yeah, again we've got another sort of thing here. So we've got an F minor chord with a 4th. Is that the best way of looking at it? No, it's not, because we've actually got we've got an A natural there. So when I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to add up what are the notes that just make a basic triad, because I want that somewhere, unless they're extensions of another basic triad, in which case it's going to be an 11th or a 13th chord. But let's have a look. Think about this. That's an F major chord. Okay, we've also got a B and a G sharp as well, and no E, so it's a little bit like an extension. So now I'm putting them all in a scale. So we've got a major minor feel, which is actually part of an alpha chord set. I'll tell you about that another time. It's too complicated to go into now. With an added B. Yeah, because I want almost that E to be there, but it's not. Unless it's somewhere else. Let's just have a look up. Nope, it's not. So how do we describe this? So that sounds diminished, doesn't it? But with another note. So that would be a diminished 7th. That'd be a doubly diminished 7th. That's a trebly diminished 7th. Is that a chord? I don't know. That's not quite right, because we also have the A natural. And a B. Now, this is significant because we got the major chord in the bass. I would say it's a flat 9. Sorry, it's a flat... let's think about this. No, it's a sharp 9. And 11. Yeah. Sharp 9 and 11. Wow. That's crazy. Let's see what Sibelius thinks of that. What even is that? It's just nonsense. I can clearly see the G sharp is 9 notes above F, and it's been raised by a semitone. It's a sharp 9. Whoops. So, to label that F, sharp 9, and then /11. Will it do that? No. Maybe it'll put it in brackets. Let's try that. Ah, yeah, F11 with a sharp 9. That will kind of do, with no 7th. Yeah, it's interesting. Why has he not put the E in? Maybe it's something to do with that? It's very close to this chord, though, isn't it? So maybe he just wants a little bit of a change. And then the last chord is a D flat chord. And then an A and a C. Fine. We can do that. Where's it gone? D flat chord. I think that's right. Let me just double check. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I'm just spelling it slightly differently. So that's D flat. What? Oh no. So we could look at this in different ways. I'm still going to say there might be an E there. So that would be an A minor over D flat. A minor over D flat. Let's try that. That sounds right, actually. That's a better way of explaining it, I think. We could try and explain it here with E over F as well. But with the actual note E omitted. It's just a real clash, isn't it? A minor, but again without the E. No root. And here, no fifth. And it's really nice to analyze it in that way because you get the correct, you get the absolute correct voicing. So we can now transpose those to anything. So I can go, okay, those are a semitone apart. I'll take a C major chord. Okay, I'm then going to go up a semitone. And I'm going to get rid of the C. There we go. In fact, it was not quite accurate there. I should have had a C sharp and then got rid of the root. There we go. Same harmony. Really extraordinary, isn't it?